Sup?
I'm Dr. Lewis Bartlett. I'm a faculty research scientist here at UGA. I work mostly on pollinating insects, especially bees, and that also inspired my drag name that I perform under as Pollination, your international insectoid drag queen. So Polly was actually invented here in Athens during grad school when I was coming here to UGA to do fieldwork as part of my PhD. So I'd fly in from Britain, where I was studying at the time, to Georgia to do beekeeping in the summer. And while I was here, I looked to see what I'd wanted to do in the evening, kind of in downtime. There were 2 or 3 competing drag troupes, and one of them took me under their wing. And so then when I returned the next year, they all recognised me, and it didn't take much arm twisting for my drag mother, Jen Sparks, to put me in a dress and put me on stage with her. And that was Polly's introduction to the scene here, and worldwide actually. I'd say Polly's style and aesthetic are very influenced by British drag in particular. The goal is not to look beautiful or fashionable or glamorous. My performance numbers tend to have a shtick. They tend to be mostly for humour rather than to kind of serve face. Not that I don't, but that's incidental to the point of what I'm trying to do. Drag is all about creating a striking visual effect. It's not necessarily about appearing pretty. When I'm in this boy glam, I often feel like that's the best expression of who I am. Doing this kind of makeup where I like fill in my beard and stuff, that interacts with like different ways in which I see my gender in a way I find really satisfying. My drag character, I can't wait to wipe her off at the end of the night. I don't relate to how I see myself in the mirror. That is very much a performance. I put little bits of science into that. My drag brows are meant to look like moth antennae because brows are really hard to do. So it's just easier to pick a signature bit that then becomes part of your face. I don't think I behave that differently in or out of drag. I am a faculty research scientist, and that means I principally oversee research that gets done at the university. That means proposing ideas, acquiring funding, and then at this rank, principally overseeing the research being done. So I work principally on honeybees and beekeeping, as well as on infectious disease biology. So the core of almost any honeybee research lab is essentially going to be having something that looks like a beekeeping operation, because you have to be able to maintain numerous, strong, healthy colonies of bees to then do your experiments on. The first step is actually just managing honeybees as any beekeeper would, and that's a whole skill set. But in addition, you've then got the scientific aspects, which involves all sorts of laboratory work, lots of mathematics, kind of bizarre field experiments, working with other agriculturalists potentially to look at things like foraging or crop pollination. Almost any aspect of biology and chemistry will come to bear at some point. I often feel as though, regardless of what stage I'm on, whether it's a lecture hall stage or a drag performance stage, the confidence and delivery and degree of assurance I have in myself is the same. I'm not that good at drag because I don't aim to be. I have way too much in my life going on to give as much time to it as maybe I'd like to if I was doing something else. But that's okay, that shouldn't preclude me from doing it, and it doesn't stop me being a drag queen just because I have no interest in being a professional at it or getting better or anything like that. I do it for fun. That's not at all, I think, how identity needs to be. Things can just be for yourself and for your enjoyment, or in my case, a lot of it is for my community. I understand that some people really find value and comfort in phrases or labels or communities that make them feel like they're not alone, and so they can understand their identity by saying, oh well, I identify with this because of this and this attribute that belongs to this label. I tend not to operate very much like that. I tend to just allow different interests and aspects of who I am to just piece together, and I think that reflects this kind of Lego man identity that I feel like I sometimes have, where there's lots of different parts that get plugged together and sometimes they get switched out depending on how I'm feeling on a given week. It's not about expressing my identity, it's about how my expression then goes on to form my identity and sense of self. It's no surprise to me that I've ended up in kind of field sciences and field biology, where attitudes towards professionalism are some of the lowest you will see amongst academics because of the nature of field work and the kind of clothes we have to wear and the interaction you have with your colleagues when you're waist deep in mud or out in a field picking ticks off one another. It breaks down a lot of those barriers. I feel perfectly at home in academia without there being necessarily a lot of people like me. Similarly, I've ended up doing drag because it matches well my interests and the personality that I've had. So the first time I really intersected the two was doing my drag character on stage to do stand-up comedy about science at a scientific conference.
Jurassic World really lied when they said that you can chase after your study species in heels. Am I right, ladies and gays? Unrealistic expectations there of what a person should perform like in the field, and believe me, I never go below 6 inches.
So I got this tattoo in 2018. There was a lot going on politically. I'd written quite a lot of articles at the time, inspired by other queer commentators for Pride Month that year, which is something a lot of the professional societies ask their queer members to do. And one of them really concentrated on this kind of weaponizing queerness message, which is something that's come up in my professional work a lot, whereby when people ask about how to network at conferences or how to make your lectures or presentations exciting, for me, a lot of it comes from just being more authentic and genuine and dressing in a more interesting fashion and wearing things like bee earrings and having painted nails. Take what has previously been used to beat you down and make it a weapon to improve your professional standing. The ability to levy different aspects usefully across different parts of my life actually mostly comes from trial and error, and you naturally end up in the right place as long as you're willing to take the risk and not feel too heavy hit when something doesn't work out correctly. Don't look up to me. Let's be realistic now. Rather than looking up to someone, just climb up and do your part. If you're thinking about doing this sort of thing, then just go do it. And that's that on that. And there's nothing stopping anyone doing that. So just do it. Whatever you feel like doing.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Polynation!